Hello, I'm Don.
And hi, I'm Cindy. Welcome to Pearls of Liberty this 4th of July weekend. Today is Saturday, July 6th, 2013. One of the most interesting things that happened this week was Egypt's full military coup, how it happened.
But I thought it wasn't a military coup.
That's right. We do have another article that's actually a recording from National Public Radio that is an assertion that it wasn't a military coup, that this was done by the military in response to 22 million people signing petitions and many more million people taking to the streets and demanding change.
Before you say, I don't trust anything from NPR, let me be clear that it's actually the NPR guy is trying to talk the Egyptian military guy into saying, you did do a military coup, but the military guy's not going for it. He's saying, no, this was a will of the people, and we didn't put in place any kind of a military power. We put in place a neutral person so that the people could take control and have free elections. So I think it's a pretty strong argument that this is not actually a military coup as usually perceived. It's not somewhere a case where the military says, yeah, we're going to run the country now, and we're going to have some general that's the top dog. No, this is the military taking, because they have the guns, they have the force, and force is what's needed to institute the will of the people. So that's what's happening here, and basically, yeah, that's what I agree with.
And one of the reasons this is most interesting is that there had been rumors that this kind of thing was going to be done in the U.S. on the 4th of July. And that didn't happen, but it's difficult to ignore this as possibly being kind of a tutorial for the American people, or maybe just a wake up that, hey, this could happen in the U.S.
Yeah, I think that all of those troops that were rolled out and all of that security that was in all of the transport hubs, all of the airports, everything nationwide on the 4th of July, Alex Jones was saying it's a rollout of martial law. I think that that was a preparation by the dark cabal to stifle any announcements of liberty or any announcements that the good guys had, the white hats had actually taken control in any kind of an effort to give the government back to the people away from the dark cabal that's now running things. So I think that the good guys held back and watched as the bad guys displayed their prowess in terms of their boots on the ground. So we are in a much trickier situation than Egypt is, but I think Egypt was and is a beta test of the good guys. We do know that this was not the plan that Henry Kissinger et al. Wanted for the Middle East. Egypt was supposed to be Muslim Brotherhood and Taliban type control, Al-Qaeda running the country, and that is supposed to be the prototype for all of the Middle East. It's not working out that way. It's not working out that way in Syria, and Syria is not turning into a World War III either. So this, it's not going according to plan for these guys, and that's a good thing. So the people are wising up. The people are realizing in Egypt and elsewhere that they're not going to be manipulated. They understand the game. Humanity has woken up, and that's a very good thing. And the military is on the side of the people. And it's not about military suppressing the people and raping the people and subjecting them to this dark rule of force. That's not it at all. This is not an old-style military coup. This is the military acting on behalf of the people, and that could happen in America too.
And I suppose that the great race is trying to be, if the dark cabal is able to put in place enough drones, enough automation so that they don't need to rely on a military that still has integrity. That if they can get that kind of military control and cut out the people who might want to do the right thing for the American people, then they would be that much farther ahead. And I suppose the race is for the good, what you're referring to as the good military, the white hats, whatever, to make their move before the cabal has everything completely sewn down with automation.
Yeah, I agree. That's what we're expecting, and I think part of what happened was an educational experience for those that were the boots on the ground, as I said, for the dark cabal. But these, by and large, are just military that have been told to protect the American people. But I would imagine that behind the scenes now, those that took part are being educated into what could have happened, would have happened, if the current regime is exposed for the non-republic that it is, in the event that a republic is restored. So we shall see. There's all kinds of things happening behind the scenes that we're not privy to, but we just see the signs on the surface that indicate that something is happening, that something good is percolating, and it's coming along slowly, but we believe that there is a change that will be something like Egypt happening in the United States.
Well, this is, the term military coup is something that frightens most people. I mean, it calls to mind visions of banana republics and bloody revolutions. But when the checks and balances fail, and to a great extent they have, when there's equal corruption in all the various branches of government, then there are not really a whole lot of options left except for the people to rise up and the military to take the part of the people and assist them in restoring a republic, or a form of government that the people choose.
Yep. So unplug from your TV and your regularly scheduled programming and tune in to what's really going on, and I'm sure there will be some exciting surprises along the way. Just don't believe the voices that are telling you treason, treason, because those are the voices that are saying that are actually the treasonous people involved. So use discernment, don't believe the usual suspects, and do your own research.
And if I understand this correctly, this is actually a lawful way for the people to object to the government that is in place as being invalid, and bring some people to justice who are working evil.
It's actually more than that. This is the whole premise here is the grand jury, not citizen, that's a bad word. This is the common law grand jury that is really the foundation of our republic that has been supplanted now with corporate government. And it's the way to get back to a lawful common law republic. And because the Supreme Court has actually ruled, even the corporate Supreme Court of the United States has ruled that grand juries are not a part of any branch of the government. They are the true roots of the government, and they are outside the jurisdiction of any government. Having said that, need to emphasize that the participation in a grand jury of the people, or a common law grand jury, needs to be those that are not citizens, because citizen means subject. You're not a subject to any of the corporate powers. So this is an encouraging development. A lot of those that have studied common law recognize the validity of this, and I see this as something that started in New York and is going nationwide. I think it didn't start that long ago. I think it was in 2011, and it looks like it's gaining some steam. And I'm excited about the possibility, because unlike other attempts at reforming a government such as Rusa-Tusa, this actually is the foundation of the government, is the grand jury. So the idea being, get grand juries formed in every county of every state, and we can take back our country, and we can take back our states. And I shouldn't even say country, because there's a very, very funny, tricky word thing here that goes on. We can take back our nation. Actually, the states are the sovereign entities, but the nation is the federal government, but that is not in any way taking away from the sovereignty of the individual states. It is very simple, but you have to get your brain into to disengage from the current corporate think. So we recommend this website to you, nationallibertyalliance.org. Check into it and see what is going on there and potentially be a part of it.
And I think you told me yesterday they require 6 people per county, so that sounds pretty doable. That sounds possible to get 6 people in every American county.
Yeah, that's the way to get started. I think that ultimately a grand jury needs 25 or more people, but in order to get started, apparently 6 is enough. So yeah, it's something that you can get moving on pretty quickly.
So go find your 6 Liberty friends, or 5 Liberty friends, plus you is 6. And we have a little history here. This is a very dark article about the secret history of Laurel Canyon. Some of the photos here are very graphic, and we're not even, recommending the entire article. If you're squeamish at all, or you don't want to have a really bad day, or don't want to feel bummed out or overwhelmed, you might want to skip most of this. But if you scroll down, this was a little interesting piece of history that neither of us had been aware of. That there was an automobile race between steam, gas, and electric cars. At the end of the day, Riker's electric car had won all the major races. This was in 1896. So this was when the automobile was just being introduced, and it caused some waves. Riker disproved a well-known smear trick used by the combustible engine crowd that claimed electric cars were not fast enough for the open road. He gained instant notoriety and praise in 1901 when his electric race car, the Riker Torpedo, set a world speed record. So what happened? Why are we not driving electric cars for the most part today?
It's all about monopolies, and this is all about Standard Oil taking control and saying, no, we don't think that we want this electric car to take away the power of the internal combustion engine, because that internal combustion engine uses our oil that we have a monopoly on, and that's the way we want to go. So that's what happened. They bought off Mr. Riker, and who unfortunately caved in, and his ego was assuaged by being made the first president of the Society of Automotive Engineers, this electric guy. But the electric car disappeared into the horizon, and you still hear the rumors of it not being fast enough for the open road. Even though today we've got the Tesla car and all kinds of other interesting electric vehicle developments. Maybe we're breaking out of this monopoly, or maybe the monopolies guys are just so confident that they control the game now that they're willing to take on the challengers. I'm not sure.
Well, as you highlighted when we discussed this earlier, the Rockefeller may have even been thinking toward the day when they would levy carbon taxes. Because with the electric cars, we would obviously have had far less pollution, and would have been much better for people just generally. But now we have this foot on our necks that we're dependent on petroleum, and they want to charge us these absurd carbon taxes, maybe as a promise for them, against the day when we're no longer buying their gasoline.
Yeah, what people don't realize is that the carbon trading system is owned by the oil companies. It's all a sham. It's all a fraud. It's all a way to maintain the current power structure. It's not a way to change to anything new by any means. So, yeah, I think it's possible that in the early days of automotive beginning of the industry, they saw the carbon monoxide coming off the engine and were able to think forward enough to think, well, if we cover the planet in these things, that's going to make some bad gases, and we're going to have some problems. But you know what? These guys actually like that because they think in terms of problem, reaction, solution. If they've got a monopoly, then they control the problem that they create, and they can be manipulating the people towards the solution that they want, which is always greater centralization and greater control. And saying, oh, bad automobile, we have to impose these controls which actually tighten their monopoly and completely squeeze out the little guy. So, yeah, I think it's possible that they planned their problem, reaction, solution with their monopoly that long ago.
Another interesting aspect of this article is the fact that Rockefeller purchased electric train networks across the country, and then he dismantled them. So interestingly, when I read this, sadly all the electric tram lines were dismantled, destroyed, smoothed over, and eventually replaced by buses from General Motors, which was another tentacle of the Rockefeller empire. And this really reminded me of the film Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because that was the main plot in the story, that the tram lines were being taken out and replaced by giant clover leaves for the freeway.
Yeah, amazing. I'm glad you noticed that. I hadn't really paid attention to that part of the plot, or the plot of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But boy, once you know this stuff, the history behind what really goes on, you can see that there's all kinds of clues in all kinds of places, and that's just pretty amazing. But that's exactly what they do. The robber barons will buy up anything that's a threat to their monopoly. Why? Because the electric municipalities could actually be locally controlled. They could have sources of power that were independent. Tesla was not that far away, not that much of in distant history, that at this time that electricity generation was a threat. It was still possible for engineers to come up with cheap or free electricity, because the Edison thing hadn't completely taken control then, and you didn't have municipalities that were completely in the monopoly camp at that time. It eventually turned out that way, but Rockefeller, who already controlled the oil, wasn't about to take that chance.
Amazing. It's just remarkable how we have been manipulated. And this reading on a little here, it was after buying up the remaining railways and replacing the easygoing tram system with stinky buses, it was only a matter of time before people started buying cars like there was no tomorrow, because they became accustomed to the noise, the smell, the mess that comes out the exhaust. I mean, imagine that if you were used to a horse. Of course, horses have their own form of mess. But if you were used to, nice, quiet horses, and all of a sudden somebody wants you to be transported in this thing that belches smoke, makes noise, runs over people, I'm sure it required some marketing to get people to even consider buying cars.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Our last topic this week, Edward Snowden. I know we feel like we've heard a lot about this. This video is from a couple weeks ago. Webster Tarpley, Edward Snowden, a triple agent. And Don has just been still chewing on these ideas and putting together the puzzle of what is really going on here, because it's difficult to tell.
Well, so far it looks like the fruit is good, and that's one thing I really want to emphasize is that Americans are waking up to this spying, even though what he's actually exposed is nothing new for those who have been paying attention. But the media exposure is waking people up, and that's a good thing. But why is that happening? Some people get so deep in conspiracy theory that they think that any time that there's media exposure like this, that must be for a bad end. And I have to disagree with that because I see that there's a possibility that if the good guys are winning, say for instance along the lines of Egypt, there's a popular support for a return of the government to the people, then you're going to have people behind the scenes that are going to be manipulating the current structure and steering it in the direction of liberty. And that's what I see happening here with this Snowden thing. And in this analysis of Tarpley, I think it's excellent, but I think that there's one key ingredient that he does not touch on, and that's that he talks about the CIA as if it's a monolithic entity, as if it's always united, but it's not. There are divisions within the CIA along the lines of the White Hats and the Dark Cabal. So the CIA is not completely bad. There are white hats within the CIA, and yeah, I think that Edward Snowden is aligned with the White Hats, and they are using him to expose the NSA, therefore getting power back into the hands of the CIA, and away from the more Orwellian and New World Order NSA. And so I give that possibility, lay that possibility out there for you that perhaps, yes, Snowden is a triple agent, but he's working for the White Hats in the CIA, because I do see good coming out of this, and I don't necessarily see any evil agenda unless you want to call CIA victory over NSA evil, and I wouldn't say that that is bad on the face of it. So I'm glad to see Americans waking up and continue to watch this as things develop.
So with that, we thank you for joining us for today's Pearls of Liberty, and we hope that you are having a restful and joyful 4th of July holiday weekend, and that we all remember liberty and the cause of liberty, and pray that liberty and justice for all will be restored in our nation.
And as always, we encourage you to see the world the way that it really is. See yourself in it. Walk your walk. You are the one you've been waiting for.